So, hi, I'm KB with Nerdophiles. How are you both?
Hey,
We're
how you
doing good.
doing?
Doing well, doing well.
That
No,
background is throwing me off, yo.
Yeah,
I don't know.
so
I don't know. Who are them girls?
who are they?
Who
Okay.
are
Yeah.
they?
But seriously, every human has two sides of kind of who we are, and we can either choose to kind of
mhm.
walk in duplicity or walk in honesty and truth. So for
Mm,
Mm,
each of
mm.
you,
like that.
So for each of you, what was it about your characters that really drew you to playing them? And although one could argue that one of these women may be a bit more duplicitous than the other, do you guys feel like their entire friendship was a lie, or was it ever really based in truth, And
I
I'll start
don't
with you,
think
Kat, to talk
so.
first about Marley.
Okay.
I don't
Yeah.
think that our entire friendship
Yeah,
was
it's
a
like,
lie.
dang.
No, I just think, desperate people make desperate decisions. And I
Mhm.
think that that could be a reason that one of us made some decisions
Mhm.
that we can't talk about.
Yeah, certain decisions.
Playing a character like Marley for me was really exciting because she had so much integrity and so much fight and
Mhm.
and had to win against all odds in spite of all of these different circumstances working against her. And I love playing characters that have a fight in them and that want to win and that
Mhm.
aren't victims to their circumstances. And I'm all projecting.
No, I like, yes, this is great. Keep going.
Like, keep going,
And also like I love playing a lawyer right before we
Yeah,
had
it's
a
gonna be
couple.
fun.
Well, I mean, Rodrigo was like, I've been, wanting to play police officer my whole, I've
Right,
been prepping for
right.
this my whole life. I've been prepping to be a
You
lawyer
are,
my whole life. I am
and you did really
obnoxiously,
good.
thank
You
you.
killed it.
I obnoxiously need to be like right. And if I'm wrong, like my therapist is like, this is not a delegation. Just
Yeah,
speak from your heart and be
yeah.
vulnerable. So that if that my therapist is saying that, that should kind of give you insight into my personality. So thank God
Yes.
Tyler Perry saw me for who I am, a type A lawyer.
A type A lawyer in spirit and in truth. You're
Right.
like,
He's like,
yes.
this is not
Finally, I
acting.
succeed.
Yes.
You're like, finally. Uh-huh. And what about for you, Megan? Like, what was it about Fela that drew you to her? And, do you feel like their friendship was a lie?
Well,
You better not say it was a
yeah, I
lie.
know, definitely not. No, I don't think it was a lie. I think their friendship was actually very genuine. Sometimes, as they say, the money is the root of all evil. So I
Mhm.
feel like if certain people are just focusing on certain things, it kind of takes them into a different direction. But when it comes to the friendship, I think that actually was quite genuine. And what drew me to Fela was I just love that she's human, granted, a little crazy human, but she's human. And I thought it was just really great that even though she's like former beauty queen newscaster, like instead of that being just like her only note of like this, like, pretty pageant girl person walking around, there was actually an opportunity for there to be like just some emotion, some range, something that goes beyond the person's beauty. And I thought that that was great. So that was one of my most like motivating factors for the character.
Yeah, well, listen, I can't wait for everyone to see it when it comes out later this week because y'all took me on
Yeah.
a journey. I mean, truly, I got to the end and was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I like that. It's like, oh, hey, we had that same reaction reading the
Same,
script. It's just like, oh,
same,
oh,
same reaction.
yeah, yeah.
Same reaction.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with Nerdophiles. Really appreciate it and have a great day.
Yay,
Thanks,
thank
love. You
you.
too.
It's fake. It's
Yeah.
fictitious,
We can
man.
be friends. You just can't piss us off. That's
Right.
Right,
all.
Just give us
right.
money.
That's
We'll be
it.
good.
Okay, but it seemed like everything pissed y'all off. So I'm like, now hold on.
Just give us the money. They didn't give
Right.
us the money.
But seriously, every human has two sides of who we are, and we can either
Yeah.
choose to walk in duplicity or walk in honesty and in truth.
Mhm.
So, for each of you, what is it about your characters that drew you to playing them? And do you think Kevin and Tony were equally both bad influences on each other? Because I don't know, I kind of saw Tony really grappling a little bit with his decisions towards the end of the film. And I will start with you, Tyler, to talk about Tony first.
I feel like there's a few questions in there. Well, we just talk about Tony. Yeah. I think that what drew me to Tony was that he was very steadfast. He was very focused on what it is that he needed, regardless on what anybody else may view it as. And I think In the characters that I've been blessed to play throughout my career, I don't think I've ever seen anybody who was unapologetic or that unapologetic about chasing something that was that severe, if you will, in terms of like the consequences of what was actually going on. And then, with that, he still, in the first two acts, he still showed the opposite side, that he was willing to let Marley take the reins a little bit. He was trying to steer her this way. When that didn't work, he was trying to throw her off in his own way. So I feel like the entire arc of what he was after, the obstacle of Marley standing in the way, and then just all these different choices of how he was going to get around it to get to that money, or to get to, what it is that him and Kevin were chasing. And then, to your point, your question, you asked, do we rub off on each other in the wrong way? Were we bad influences towards one another? I feel like birds of a feather do flock together. So I don't know if it was, I think if you're on the outside looking in, it looks a little bad for sure. But they were very focused, and I don't think that Tony could have pulled it off without Kevin, and vice versa. So in that perspective, if we're looking at it from where they're coming from, I felt like they were they were almost like ride or dies together. They were definitely there for each other for sure.
Yeah. And what about you, RonReaco? When it comes to Kevin, what drew you to playing him? And then do you agree with Tyler? Do you think that they were really partners, or do you think Kevin was a little bit worse? Because as a viewer, I was like, I don't know. I feel like Kevin a little bit worse than Tony.
For real. I always wanted to play a cop. So it was the minute I saw cop, I was in. Like, I didn't have to read anything else. Everything else was just bonus. Y'all, you thought Kevin was bad? See, there was a scene I saw, and it made me wonder. I was like, I wonder whose idea was this first? Like, in other words, like, who sat down and just quarterbacked this whole thing, right? This is what we gonna do, yada, yada, yada. But I don't know, y'all. Maybe Kevin, maybe he was. I gotta watch it again. I'm gonna see it in a little while. I'm gonna watch it, because I thought this was right here. I thought I would have said, Tony, but you telling me you thought Kevin was, you thought I was grimier? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, you know what? And maybe it's this. Maybe it's that Kevin is a bit more unhinged and Tony was a bit more polished. So,
Yeah.
like, in the
Yeah.
sense that, like, Tony was able to hide things a bit better, and
Yeah.
Kevin just kind of let his emotions flow, I felt like,
And you know
oftentimes.
what, though? In all honesty, there was a moment where you felt like Tony was like having a moment of clarity. Like, maybe you're right. There was a moment. And
For sure.
Kevin never had that moment.
Never.
So
Never.
you
Kevin
know
said,
what?
we have a goal and I'm
Yeah,
focused on it, and that's it.
I was grimier. I was grimier.
I think in that same
You're right.
scene is where we all got to see who the quarterback was.
Yeah.
Right.
For
The
sure.
real
Yeah,
quarterback.
like the real quarterback.
Oh, yeah.
The
True,
real
true.
quarterback. You're right. You're right. Well, listen, I can't wait for audiences to see it when it comes out later this week. And just thank you so much for taking time to chat with Nerdophiles. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
All right,
This is
thank
the
you.
dopest back.
Yeah, I like that.
How
Thank
you have
you.
that play. We see you.
Thank you.
I'll take
Thank you.
notes for that.
We see you.
Y'all have a good day.
You
Okay,
too.
you too.